Hey there folks, my name is Mr. Mooman11, and today we'll be covering the best class setup for the newly updated FFAR and Warzone, because as the age-old saying goes, if you can't beat 'em, join 'em. With the mid-season patch we got last week that included a few changes to weapons like the Aug, FFAR, and Groza, and the brand new patch that came out just yesterday doubling down on those changes, it is absolutely clear that this weapon is still one of the best choices for slaying out in the current meta, despite getting the smallest of little nerfs to one of the magazine attachments and a pretty decent nerf to the ADS speed. But we'll cover those in a second. And if you're thinking to yourself, hey Moo Man, you big goofball, I didn't see anything in the patch notes about a change to the FFAR's attachment properties in that mid-season patch last week, I'd just say, when do the patch notes ever cover what was actually updated? You'd be better off gambling your life savings into Dogecoin than betting on the patch notes being right. But since the most recent patch last night was solely focused on the AUG and FFAR nerfs, they did actually finally include the changes they made in the patch notes for once. They stated that the FFAR was kind of a jack of all trades. Quite the shocker there, considering it had the damage profile of an assault rifle and the handling and fire rate of an SMG, but I'm glad Captain Obvious has joined the communications team regardless. At least we're getting something in the patch notes. So they slapped the FFAR with a nerf to the aim down sight speed to be a bit more in line with the other assault rifle weapons without touching the damage values or ranges, so it's still just as powerful if you're landing your shots. We'll have to see what kind of hidden changes or unintended glitches we'll get with this patch. I've got my money on new exciting stim glitch exploits. But for now, it does appear accurate that the ADS speed has slowed down on the FFAR, so they might have gotten their notes right for once. Before the nerf yesterday, the aim down sight speed for the typical fully kitted out rifle that was pretty meta was 317 milliseconds. That exact same class now post-patch has an ADS speed of 400 milliseconds, which isn't anything too crazy, but it's enough to notice. So let's go over the changes I've made to my FFAR setup for the most totally balanced, not overpowered build that'll maximize your damage output while keeping recoil manageable and your ADS speed snappier than a wannabe greaser in the 50s. Let's get right to it. At a glance, we'll be running the Agency Suppressor, the 19.5-inch reinforced heavy barrel, the Raider stock, the Stenag 50-round magazine, and the Serpent wrap for the rear grip. I think the biggest thing to keep in mind with this build is that with how I've got it kitted out, it's more geared to be a versatile mid-range rifle that you can still use in close quarters if you want, but it's less effective in CQB post-patch. With this latest nerf though, if you truly want something to dominate the close quarters gunfights, running an SMG secondary may finally be back in meta. So let's talk through each of the different attachments we'll be running and how they'll affect your performance out on Verdansk when you're stream sniping Nick or Tim. The Agency Suppressor is your golden attachment in Warzone. It'll keep you off the radar, which is vitally important, while also reducing your vertical kick, increasing your bullet velocity, and extending your effective damage range, if you know what I mean. Have a talk with your doctor immediately if you don't notice your effective damage range decreasing after 4 hours of using this attachment. Next up is the barrel. The 19.5 reinforced heavy barrel is the best compromised barrel that'll keep recoil down while boosting the critically important bullet velocity and damage range. Its only two downsides are a sprinting move speed decrease, which isn't too bad of a trade-off, and a strafe speed decrease, which we'll be offsetting with another attachment here in a second. The next two barrels down the list only boost one of either velocity or range, and the last Task Force barrel needlessly adds extra recoil for the same benefits pretty much as the reinforced heavy, so that's what we're sticking with. For the stock attachment, we'll be running the Raider stock, which is super similar to the SAS combat stock, both visually and stat-wise, but apparently adding a tiny bandolier of 3 random 5.56 rounds to the stock makes your sprint-to-fire time increase, so worth it, I guess. This attachment also cancels out the downside to strafe speed we got when running the reinforced heavy barrel we talked about 30 seconds ago, so double worth it. On to the ammo attachment. In addition to the 3 loose rounds you've got equipped to your Raider stock for no reason, you'll want to equip the Stenag 50-round magazine instead of the Salvo 50-round fast mag. The ADS penalty you get for running the Salvo mag is much greater than the Stenag mag. Plus, you don't get to sound nearly as cool saying Salvo mag. Stenag mag gang for life! Fun history fact time! A Stenag magazine, or NATO magazine, is a type of detachable firearm magazine proposed by NATO in October of 1980. Shortly after NATO's acceptance of the 5.56x45mm NATO rifle cartridge, the Draft Standardization Agreement, Stenag, 4179, was proposed in order to allow NATO members to easily share rifle ammunition and magazines down to the individual soldier level. While this agreement was never ratified, most member countries and manufacturers adopted the magazine standardization and use that configuration to this day. How fun is that? Moving on. Our last attachment used to be the Field Agent grip for the underbarrel, but it had a pretty negligible recoil benefit. So in honor of yesterday's ADS nerf, we're going to be switching over to the rear grip attachment slot and taking the Serpent wrap, because the one thing your FFAR has always wanted to do was to be able to say, I'm a slithery little snag. It also boosts your ADS speed, but we all know which of the two is more important. The rest of your class should be built out in a way that best suits your playstyle, as well as the game mode you're playing. I like the smaller map design and faster pace of the Rebirth game mode, so my class setup for Rebirth usually involves running Quick Fix as my blue perk so I can take out multiple enemies and stay at full health if any of them manage to land shots on me, Ghost as the red perk to stay off the radar and heartbeat sensors, and Amped so I can switch weapons faster. I take a pistol of some sort that has a high ammo capacity as my secondary, but my Alcatraz or Rebirth strategy often involves getting 2 loadouts, the second being a sniper or just making do with whatever ground loot weapon I come across. Whatever the case, I prefer to maintain radar silence for as much of the game as possible, so Ghost is preferable to overkill in my opinion. For lethals and tacticals, I run a Claymore more for information than anything else. With the circle constantly moving and the map being small to begin with, getting to high ground and cutting off flanking routes with a Claymore can give you a few seconds of warning to any approaching players. I also take a heartbeat sensor to help weed out any non-ghosted campers, or to help track down any respawning players dropping from the sky. For regular Warzone, I run a pretty similar build, except I switch out Quick Fix for EOD and replace the Claymore with a C4. Just like with Alcatraz, I try to buy my ghosted FFAR loadout before the free one drops, and then I'll get my sniper or whatever other long-range weapon is meta at the time in my free loadout. Lastly, for the Plunder game mode, I find switching the blue perk to double time really helps cut down on the time running from location to location, or just trying to get to a vehicle. I also take a C4 or a Simtex in Plunder for my lethal, and smoke for my tactical. Being able to smoke out a landing zone or cache crate can make the difference between securing your cache or getting domed harder than the Capitol building. What matters most is setting up the rest of the class the way that you'll utilize the FFAR most effectively to match whatever your most comfortable playstyle is for that game mode. As it stands right now, the FFAR is still an absolute beast of an AR, with what is arguably a time to kill that is still too fast, but like I said at the beginning, if you can't beat them, join them. And while we're on the subject of joining them, if you haven't already, why not consider joining us here at the Moo Crew by subscribing? It's easy, it's free, and you won't have to keep worrying about me showing up in front of your house every night with that blank, expressionless void behind my eyes boring a hole into your soul. Because let's be honest, you need your sleep, and I think I've made it pretty clear I have no intention of stopping. Of course, it also helps us out when you subscribe, and you'll be joining our growing community of COD and cow enthusiasts, and that's fun too. Let me know what you think of these nerfs down in the comments below. Were they enough? Did they go too far? Is Mooman truly the sexiest cow there is? And would you build the FFAR any differently from mine after this patch? Come join our live streams at twitch.tv/MrMooman11 to let me know in person. And did you know you can personally support us by becoming a Moo Crew patron on Patreon? Well, you can at patreon.com/TheMooCrew with a K. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.